Well, it's the summer movie season, and first up we got a bunch of movies coming out in May that'll give me inspiration for what to review next. Alright, what's coming out first? Perfect, I'll review the first movie to see if it was as good as people said it was. Where the fuck is it? Okay, what's coming out next? Alright, again, I'll just review the first one. That's gone too. Okay, I must have misplaced that as well. Next? Hangover 3. Perfect. Do the second one, get that done. Son of a bitch! What the hell is happening to all my movies? Alright. Next. Okay, After Earth. Well, I've already done The Last Airbender. I've defended Signs and The Happening, so there's no fun in that. Do The Sixth Sense. Fuck it. We're doing Unbreakable. Unbreakable is a 2000 thriller and M. Night Shyamalan's follow-up to The Sixth Sense. Wait a minute. Nick, why are you telling him about it? Well, this film is hated by everyone, isn't it? I mean, for fuck's sake, Doug Walker put it on his list of top 10 movies he likes but everyone else hates. You know, despite the fact that he put it as a mixed opinion when he was talking about Signs on his last list. Sorry, Nick, but Pat has to cover this one. Sorry, I got nothing. This film got mixed reviews from the critics, and I do critical opinions. Ugh. Okay, Unbreakable is a comic book movie. Sort of, from the year 2000. It made a decent amount of money, and critics gave it mildly positive reviews. But over the years, this movie has gotten a huge cult following, appearing on several best superhero movies of all time lists, everyone calling it underrated, loving the realistic take on superheroes, the acting, the direction, and the story. And many people call it Shyamalan's best film. Even Shyamalan himself said this is his favorite of the films he's done. So does Unbreakable deserve to have so many fans? Well, let's find out. Wait a minute, how the hell did I get here? How did my shirt change? The movie starts in Philadelphia in 1961, where we see a young mother who has called the doctor to help her since her infant son won't stop crying.
It appears that your baby has sustained some fractures while inside your uterus. His arms and his legs are broken.
Wow, that's an unbelievably depressing way to start your movie. After some particularly bland credits, we cut to present day where we meet David Dunn, played by Bruce Willis. He's traveling back from a job interview in New York. We're all gonna die. David is a security guard in Philadelphia, but he wants to transfer to New York. Him and his wife are going through some hard times and they might get a divorce. He also is afraid of water. All of this he tells to a woman he just met, and all while the camera is positioned behind the seats in front of them. Why the hell did you put the camera there? Are we looking through the eyes of the little girl? The woman leaves and then some scary stuff starts happening. So in the first 10 minutes, we've had an injured baby, a failing marriage, and a train crash. Having fun yet? David wakes up in the hospital where he learns that he's not only the sole survivor, but he doesn't have a scratch on him. And I also must tell you that this whole scene is shown from this angle. He's allowed to leave and meets back with his son and wife. Okay, so he's a superhero. Didn't take long to figure that out. You could literally figure it out from the trailer. So now I guess we're going to start the fighting crime part. Well, first we have to go to the funeral to achieve sympathy for the people we've never seen, and when he goes out, he finds a card on his windshield that asks how many days of his life he's been sick. He goes to ask his boss, but it turns out he isn't there.
About you in the paper. I was in an accident once too. Horse almost trampled me to death. Had him put down.
Thanks for sharing. But it turns out that the boss being gone was pointless since he tells him he hasn't been sick at all 2 scenes later.
Audrey, do you remember me ever getting sick? In the 3 years we lived in this house? In the old apartment? Before Joseph was born? Before we ever got married?
I can't remember.
Don't you think that's kind of weird? Not remembering one cold, or a fever, or a sore throat. What do you think it means?
It means you're a superhero. My God, the origin story is always tedious. We flash back to 1974 where we see the teenage baby from the beginning, named Elijah, being a brooding emo as his mother has to bribe him to go outside. You know, we learn later that Elijah's bones break very easily, so why is it that his mother is forcing him to go outside where he could very easily get hurt? I feel like these two are backwards.
You might fall between this chair and that television. If that's what God has planned for you, that's what's going to happen. You can't hide from it sitting in the room.
They call me Mr. Glass at school because I break like glass.
Wow, the kids at school are really uncreative. Thank you, that was very necessary. And yeah, get him hooked on comics so he'll have even more reason not to leave his room.
They say this one has a surprise ending.
Back in present day, we see Elijah, now played by Samuel L. Jackson, owns a comic book art studio. No, not a comic book store, a comic book art studio. And he's so obsessed with this stuff that he actually won't let some guy buy one for his 4-year-old. So he doesn't want kids owning his art, even though kids are one of the main demographics for comics. And not to mention the people obsessed enough with comics to actually buy artwork take up about 0.3% of the population. Yeah, I give this place like 3 weeks. David and his son Joe meet with Elijah about the note. David tells him that he was injured in a car accident in college.
I believe comics are our last link to an ancient way of passing on history.
So paintings aren't?
The city has seen its share of disasters. I watched the aftermath of that plane crash. I watched the carnage of the hotel fire. I watched the news waiting to hear a very specific combination of words, but they never came. I have something called osteogenesis imperfecta. It's a genetic disorder. I don't make a particular protein very well, and it makes my bones very low in density, very easy to break. I've had 54 breaks in my life, and I have the tamest version of this disorder, type 1. There are type 2, type 3, type 4. Type 4s don't last very long.
I actually looked up this disease and found out that not only are there 8 types, but the 4th one is actually less lethal than the 2nd one. So one of the major plot points about this movie is a complete lie. It turns out Elijah thinks David is a superhero. Naturally, David thinks he's crazy and gets his son out of there. That night, after looking through some newspapers, David's wife Audrey comes to his room to talk to him.
I just want to ask you something, okay? And you can be totally honest. I'm prepared for any answer, and it won't affect me. Have you been with anyone?
Yes. The next day, Elijah visits David at work. Also, why are we watching this from this angle? It has no purpose. While talking, David bumps into a guy and tells Elijah that he saw a picture of a gun in his head, but the guy walks away before they can question him. While leaving, Elijah sees the man and chases after him, and then... Did you really need David to tell you this guy was carrying a gun? I mean, he just fucking looks evil. After the fall, Elijah is convicted to a wheelchair and physical therapy. And who happens to be his therapist? Audrey! Coincidence?
Is it possible? There are no coincidences.
Joseph is helping David work out, putting 250 pounds on. He tells him to take some more off, but instead he puts more on.
You had it? 270 pounds.
Let's put more.
Okay.
No, your son could have killed you. After basically defying the laws of physics, again, he's a superhero, let's move on to the crime fighting, David bumps into a guy at the stadium and what the fuck? So he's psychic now? We'll throw all realism out the window. And I love the angle he got instead of looking through the person's eyes, because that would just make too much sense. David confronts the man, played by Shyamalan, in his trademark cameo, but finds nothing. Worst cameo ever. David is called down to Joseph's school after he gets into a fight.
Audrey handles this type of stuff.
Oh.
Then why wasn't she called down? We learned that David nearly drowned in the pool when he was a kid. What could it all mean? Is it going to be disappointing? After dinner, Joseph starts acting weird and...
I'll show you.
Whoa.
Do you remember the story about the boy that almost drowned in the pool? That was me they were talking about. I almost died. That was me. I'm not lying, okay? I just didn't remember it, that's all.
You know your father was injured in college. You know that. You know all about that. Don't do it. He'll die, Joseph.
I'll just shoot him once.
Joseph, listen to what your mother...
Don't be scared.
Joseph, if you pull that trigger, I'm going to leave. Do you understand? I'm going to go to New York. You're right. If you pull that trigger, that bullet is just going to bounce off me and I'm not going to be hurt. But then I'm going to go upstairs and I'm going to pack and I'm going to leave for New York.
Why?
Because I thought we were just starting to be friends for real. And friends listen to each other. They don't shoot each other. Do they, Audrey?
No shooting friends, Joseph.
Joseph! You are about to be in big trouble! Now, I am your father, and I am telling you to put that goddamn gun down right now! 1, 2...
That was probably this film's most famous scene, and in my opinion, the best scene. Not only because it's one of the few scenes with nail-biting suspense, but because it's one of the few with actual emotions from the actors.